Accessing peace. Existing without violence. With the ability to calmly resolve conflict. Downloading love. An overwhelming, deep, positive affection towards others. Activating liberty. Living your life as you see fit without infringing on the lives of others.
Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at FPPradioNews.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism. And it's good to be back, right? It's been 2 weeks. I know I posted out on the social medias. I didn't actually re-upload, but I did post out on the social medias last Friday the link to the Millinocket episode from last year. Millinocket being the place that I was last weekend up in northern Maine. There's a marathon and also a half marathon that happens on the same day. Last year I ran the marathon. This year I ran the half. Also the night before I ran the Crankle 2K that's actually about 3/4 of a mile, and then on Sunday morning, I wound up organizing the 1K, the Sunday Fun Day Recovery Run Day 1K, and we had, I think it was 25 people that actually showed up. There were a good bit more that had actually registered. Some weren't able to make it for various reasons and notified me of such. But I'm pleasantly surprised with the turnout, especially considering how cold it was up in northern Maine last weekend. Now, I might wind up talking about the race a little bit, and I know that I said 2 weeks ago I was going to take my Zoom recorder, which I did. However, I wound up being so busy with all kinds of things that I never pulled it out of the case and never turned it on. I was hoping on the drive back to wind up doing some recording of a recap, and that just didn't happen. But yeah, I might wind up talking about that a little bit during this show, but let me first get to your questions, because that's what I do, right? I answer questions that you send me using the contact form over at ama.fppradio.com. That's AMA as in Ask Me Anything, ama.fppradio.com. Several people might want to know how this works. Question: how do I get your daily 5-minute radio news program to work on my Amazon device? I would like to include it in my daily flash briefing. I'm not sure what a daily flash briefing is, but I can tell you how to, thanks to Spreaker and a page that they have on their website, I can tell you how to get your Amazon devices. I'm assuming that it has Alexa on it, because isn't Alexa the Amazon thing? I think it is. So what you need to do is first add the Spreaker skill. So apparently with Alexa, there's different app sort of things, but they don't call them apps for Alexa. Not sure why. They call them skills. So you need to add that skill. And then use the following: Alexa, enable Spreaker. And then you open the skill by saying, Alexa, open Spreaker. So you have to first say enable, and then open, and then you say, Alexa, start Spreaker. And then, after you've done that, you can tell Alexa to play FPP Radio News. Or you can ask Alexa to search for FPP Radio or FPP Radio News. So I will wind up posting the page here from Spreaker. And Spreaker is one of the few outlets where you can actually find the shows that I do, FPP Radio News and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. So I upload them both to SoundCloud and Spreaker. I know that there's an Alexa skill for Spreaker. I would assume there is for SoundCloud as well, but I don't know off the top of my head. And the show is also from one or both of the RSS feeds available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify now. It's available on iHeartRadio, and there are probably a few other outlets that I can't think of where you can find the various podcasts. So through one or more of those platforms, you can wind up getting Alexa to wind up accessing the thing. I just, again, know specifically, here's the steps for getting it to work with Spreaker, and Spreaker is one of the outlets that I use. Next question came in via email, not through the contact form, but that's fine. I will answer it anyway. And that email address, if you want to send it directly to me, is ama@fppradio.com. But if you want to remain anonymous-ish, use the contact form, ama.fppradio.com. And I say you can remain anonymous because, yes, you have to give a name. It doesn't have to be your name. Doesn't even have to be, well, it can just be a random string of characters. You do have to provide an email address. It doesn't even have to be a functional email address. It could be test@testing.com or .org or .global or I don't know, anything. And then the question does at least need to be coherent so that I know what question you're asking. So let me go to this next question. It says, just a thought. I know you enjoy football. Now I was thinking out of the box. $9 million going to a football coach. Players may get a free education. Not all will. They get beat up, hurt, years down the road again for the opportunity to say that they were part of a winning team or helping a coach make a lot of money. Is this a form of slavery or am I overthinking it? Well, maybe. I have lots of thoughts on this, and we're coming up towards the end of this segment, and I know it's a podcast. I could just move the segments if I really, really wanted to, but I prefer doing a show where the breaks are hard-timed, as if I were doing an actual radio show, because, well, like, I'm a radio guy, right? And breaks should be hard-timed. So, when we come back in just a moment, I'll delve into the discussion about college athletics and, well, are coaches overpaid?
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at FPPradioNews.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at FPPradio.com. I'll jump in to the answer about the college athletics in just a second, but first, I've got a question for you. Are you an advocate for free market money? Do you use Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as an alternative in this fiat-centric world? If so, then you need Spendabit in your arsenal. Spendabit is the search engine for things you can buy with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. They've aggregated millions of products from thousands of Bitcoin-enabled merchants. Keep your money in the free economy. Spend a bit. Use my affiliate link, spendabit.fppradio.com. And if you're a crypto-accepting merchant like I am, ask about their merchant suite to reach even more customers. Spendabit.fppradio.com. That's spendabit, all one word, spendabit.fppradio.com. So let's talk about college athletics for a little bit. Why? Well, because I got the question about coaches making upwards of $9 million and players getting a free education and room and board, I would assume is involved with their scholarship. And then there's a lot of other things that are involved. So, yes, the student athletes, technically, in accordance with NCAA rules, they're allowed to get a job. However, based on the amount of time that's required for practice, classes, other things related to the sport that they're playing, so a lot of times you have to watch game tape so that you know what to expect from the other teams. Oh, and then don't forget, they've got to eat and they've got to sleep. So when do they actually have time to work? So yes, they're allowed under the rules to get a job and not lose their scholarship, but they don't actually have the practical ability to get a job. And then you wind up with situations to where, let's say one of these athletes is really, really good, and your local sporting goods store, they're selling jerseys with the number of this guy and like the school logo because, well, the school is they've authorized somebody to make replica jerseys. And college sports fans, they're going to know that number 2 from Alabama is currently Jalen Hurst. Yeah, they know that. All sports fans know that. But Jalen doesn't get any money from the sale of his jersey because there's an NCAA rule that says that student athletes are not supposed to profit from being a student athlete. And this is where the is this slavery question comes in. On the one hand, you kind of have to answer, no, it's not slavery because they voluntarily agreed to the terms of this contract, right? They knew what they were getting into when they signed on the dotted line, or at least one would think that they knew what they were getting into when they signed on the dotted line to accept the scholarship from the school. Right? They know you must abide by NCAA rules. And here's a booklet with all of the NCAA rules. And one of those rules is that they are not able to profit. But at the same time, is it kind of exploitation of the student athletes? Because, well, let's look at it. So you've got somebody, and I realize the statistics of the amount of college athletes that wind up turning professional is very slim, but it's kind of a gamble, right? So you have somebody like a Jalen Hurst or a who's somebody that everybody knows, Michael Jordan. I realize it's been 30 some odd years since he was in college, but he had the talent, he had the ability, and it's kind of a gamble of, do I try to turn my talent into a career? Well, I can't do that if I don't go to college. And in certain sports, you basically have to go 3 or 4 years before you're allowed to turn pro. In football, you are required per the NFL to be 3 years out of high school before you can join the NFL. In basketball, it's 1 year post-high school. Baseball is really convoluted, and I'm not even going to try to pretend to know all of the minutia, but I know that you can turn pro straight out of high school, but if you go to an NCAA school, then there's a certain amount of years that you have to wait before you can go pro. But if you go to a community college, then you can go pro sooner. And I don't know what the rules are for hockey. But again, like some of these student athletes, they basically see that if I'm going to do X of turn pro, then I must go to college. A lot of those college athletes are not there to learn. So giving them a free education is basically you handing me a mushroom sandwich on pumpernickel bread. I'm not going to like what the thing is that you're giving me, but, well, you're giving me something, so I should be grateful, right? Well, no. What these student athletes, a lot of them really want is money. That's why they're in college, so that they can then try to go pro and make money. So if they are making millions of dollars for the school, then should they wind up getting paid? And then you come into other questions of how do you determine which athletes to pay? Are we only paying the athletes for sports that are profitable to the school? Well, in that case, it's only going to be football players and sometimes basketball players, because most college sports don't make money. And most of the time, the basketball teams don't make money, but there are a few exceptions where the basketball team, like University of North Carolina, where the basketball team, Duke as well, where the basketball team winds up being the big money maker for the school. And all of the other sports are dependent upon that one, possibly two sports actually. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it a little bit more here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at weusecoins.com. That's weusecoins.com. Born into a devastating world and raised among the crowd, the Cloudwalker assumes a new identity and begins the unrelenting quest for truth. In this epic journey, he discovers dark secrets about aspects of his previous life that he once trusted. Through the Journal of the Cloudwalker, he shares both the traumatic hardships and the eternal beauties of his experiences. Fueled in the beginning by his unsettling thoughts and emotions, he learns how to find peace with everything he has woken up to. Dear Society by the Cloudwalker is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at FPPradionews.com.
Hey, welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at FPPradionews.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism, and we're talking about college sports and should college athletes be paid? Is it slavery to not pay them anything monetarily, but only give them a free education that they might not want? And yes, I realize that there's also a little bit of a stipend to cover food, and there's also the room and board that winds up being covered. But when you have someone, in this case a student athlete, that is helping a school bring in some cases, tens of millions of dollars, right? There are certain football coaches that are being paid somewhere near $10 million. Should the athletes who are helping him wind up making that money, because, well, if they weren't winning games, he wouldn't get paid that high, should the athletes be paid? And, well, there's like NCAA rules about equal treatment of all athletes. So if you're going to pay one athlete at a school, NCAA rules would dictate that you have to pay all athletes at the school. And then if you start breaking down how much money is actually made, what's the profit of the athletics department and then dividing that across all athletes, then is it really any sort of, meaningful amount of money that they wind up getting? And then there might also be an interpretation that all student athletes across the entire country would need to be paid the same. And, well, since not all of the schools are bringing in the same amount of revenue for their athletic departments, then you get into sort of a tricky situation to where you're going to have more profitable athletic departments, like, say, University of Alabama, Notre Dame, probably Michigan, Ohio State, Duke, North Carolina, subsidizing schools like Appalachian State or Western Michigan so that all of the athletes can wind up getting paid the same amount of money. And then it might wind up really not even being that much money. It might be, say, $100 a month, which, all right, cool. It's nice to have an extra $100 a month. I wouldn't turn down an extra $100 a month. But if we're talking about paying student athletes, giving them $100 is kind of a slap in the face, right? And again, I've not actually run all of the numbers of how profitable are all of these different athletic departments and how many student athletes and divide the numbers accordingly. But I have run the numbers on other businesses like Starbucks and McDonald's, where people will post, the CEO makes X, and they say they can't pay people $15 an hour. Well, when you wind up dividing whatever the amount that the CEO makes, and in the case of McDonald's, I think it was McDonald's, if the CEO of McDonald's corporate, and let's not even pay attention to the fact that most McDonald's are franchises and not owned by McDonald's corporate, but if the corporate CEO made $0 and that money was distributed evenly to every employee, they would see like a 50-cent per hour pay raise on the high end. Realistically, it would probably be closer to 15 cents. Same goes with Walmart and Starbucks, where it'd be somewhere between 15 to 50 cents, assuming that you're distributing evenly. And, yes, I know not all employees are full-time, and that's why there's the discrepancy to where I ran the numbers one way of assuming everybody was full-time, and then realizing, wait, certain percentage are going to be part-time, and, just trying to figure it out. It's not going to be that much. So, yeah, this is something that I would not be opposed to seeing an NCAA rule change to allow student athletes to at least wind up getting endorsements, right? So let's say you're the star quarterback at the University of Alabama, and Adidas comes calling and says, hey, we want to wind up making you the spokesman for Adidas. All right, well, here's a compromise, all right? So, yeah, dude winds up being the spokesman for Adidas for the next 2 years while he's in college. Let's compromise here and say that money goes into a trust. He gets it when his eligibility expires. How about that? Or he gets it when he leaves college to enter the NFL, because those aren't necessarily the same thing, right? I realize in some cases when you say you're entering for the draft, that terminates your eligibility. But if you're not drafted, then you could wind up maybe like filing some other kind of paperwork. But there are other reasons that one might leave school other than to go pro in that sport, right? So either when your eligibility expires or you actually turn pro, or maybe, have a clause in there of if you wind up leaving school for any reason, that's when you get the money. But you don't get the money right away. So, got to sit on it for a little bit. Maybe that could be a compromise that the NCAA might want to look at to just allow sponsorships. But to wind up saying that every student athlete, even those from sports that aren't profitable, needs to get the same amount of money as student athletes for the sports that are profitable is not something that I would want to see because, well, then what's the incentive to actually wind up having a profitable sport if you're not getting all the money, right? Then it is kind of like communism in athletics.
Are you sick of government lackeys who say you didn't build that? Are you tired of elitists who think you need a government permission slip for everything? Everything you do is an A to B conversation, and the government should see their way out of it. Create true free markets by adopting the BIPCOT No Government License. The BIPCOT No Gov license allows use or modification of any product, service, or software except by governments or government agents. Go to BIPCOT.org. That's Bravo, India, Papa, Charlie, Oscar, Tango.org.
Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com.
This is Roger Paxton from Pax Libertas Productions and the Lava Flow Podcast, and you're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at FPPradioNews.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry, the Liberty Penguin, the Wombat, the uncut cocaine of libertarianism, and want to make sure that I tell you about Zencash. Well, it used to be Zencash. Now it's Horizon. And unlike Istanbul, or Constantinople, which is now Istanbul, we know why they changed it. They changed it because, well, they were broadening the horizon of what they were doing. So Horizon is not just a cryptocurrency. It's an entire platform built on zero-knowledge technology with a decentralized secure node architecture. The Horizon platform enables real-life uses beyond currency, including the ability to privately chat with other people. Soon, Horizon will enable you to publish information and go anywhere on the web, all with complete privacy. Horizon, bringing privacy to life. Learn more at horizon.global. That's Horizen, horizon.global. So I think I pretty well covered the college athletes being paid, right? I think so. If you want me to, cover it in a different way, please shoot me an email. Just use the contact form for Ask Me Anything, the ama.fppradio.com page. Again, need to put a name, doesn't have to be yours, can just be a random string of characters. Need to put an email address, doesn't have to be functional, doesn't have to be yours. And then the question. Now, we've got a couple minutes left, so let me do a very, very, very brief recap of the Millinocket Half Marathon, which is the race I did. There was also the marathon, happened at the same time. Well, actually, it started 10 minutes before the half. But I was out on the course with some of the full marathoners. I got to meet a future Olympian who is just absolutely amazing. This was her 4th year running the Millinocket Marathon. She won the full race as the first overall runner in 2015. In 2016, she came in 3rd among females, and then she won it last year and this year, the women's race. The year that she came in 3rd among women, she was 5.5 months pregnant. She's absolutely amazing. Sarah Mulcahy, I think I'm pronouncing that right. I've only seen it written. I've never seen it pronounced. It was frigid. The real fill temperature at the start of the race was -1. By mile 6, all of my base layers were ice. But by that second shot of Fireball, I didn't care, and it was amazing and glorious. And I finished the race, and I'll be back next week to answer your questions.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copy Heart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Though Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. Love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News, and also get a copy of the monthly newspaper FPP News. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.